Alright, welcome to another episode of the Cassels Cast. My name's Eamon Cassels. Joining me today is going to be Finn Kuehl and Jacoblocks. We're going to be going over our 2025-2026 Role Player All-Stars. It was a super fun episode, but before we get into that, I have to share my thoughts on the Trae Young trade. It literally happened just a few short hours after we were done recording, so I felt like it was only right to give my thoughts on the first real trade of this NBA season. So, of course, Trae Young ended up going to the Washington Wizards in exchange for CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert. This is a really weird trade, to be honest. I did think of the Wizards as a suitor potentially, but I thought it would have to be more so in the offseason because I assumed they were tanking, as they have been for the last few seasons. But it looks like they're sort of ready to raise their floor, and I do respect that. And I mean, for this price, you can't really complain about getting Trae Young. And long term, I do think it will benefit their team in a big way. When you look at the Wizards, they haven't had great lottery luck, other than getting that number 2 pick in 2024, but obviously that wasn't the best draft class. They did end up getting Alex Sarr, which has been massive, and he looks really good, but last year they fell down to 6, and it could be the same thing if they keep going with this strategy where they're trying to get the worst record in the league. You still have a really good chance of falling out of that top 3, which obviously isn't ideal. So I do respect the Wizards sort of going for it and trying to raise their floor. With that being said, this still probably leaves them in the lottery just because of how big a hole they've dug themselves into through these first 35 games or so. I think they have like 10 wins on the season. So even with adding a guy in Trae Young who's a top 30, 35 level player, I don't see this team being all that competitive this season. I do see this sort of speeding up things for their rebuild a little bit, and I think that's really massive for them. I just don't like the idea of just being bad for 5 or 6 years, and at some point the Wizards, I felt like, did have to make a move to be a little bit more competitive. They had a ton of open cap space heading into next offseason, and they still do, even with this Trae Young trade, so I think that's another thing that can benefit them down the road. But yeah, big picture, I really like Trae next to this core, especially Alex Sarr. I feel like that's just a perfect fit. You look at Sarr's defense, that's going to benefit Young in a big way, and then offensively, Young has never really played next to a center like Sarr, so I think that's going to really help both of those players a lot, and Sarr's taken a lot of steps in the right direction, but he hasn't had that natural playmaker, and I've been super impressed with his season so far. Really getting that elite playmaker in Young. You can say whatever you want about him, if you think he's a winning player or whatever, but there's no doubt that he's an elite playmaker, and he will help Sarr in that regard. And it also gives the Wizards like a real shot creator. I know Keyshawn George has been that for them a little bit. Sarr has taken some nice steps in that direction, as I said, but they still don't have that like legit, consistent, high-level scorer. So I feel like that will help them in a massive way. And yeah, overall, I think this Wizards team is in a really good spot long term. I was a little surprised they went for it this early, but I ultimately do like this move for them. And I mean, a couple years down the road, we could be looking at this as a massive steal for the Wizards. Just given the caliber of player Trae Young has proven to be throughout his career, he's a really, really high-level guy. So I was definitely surprised at this price point, but it's absolutely worth it for the Wizards. So in terms of like a grade for the Wizards, I would have to go with like an A. No complaints. I think it was a really, really good trade. The only potential negative I could see is if they raise up the standings a little too much, they could actually lose their first round pick because it is top 8 protected to the Knicks. So that's the only potential downside, but ultimately I really like this deal for Washington. Now on the Atlanta side, I think this is maybe the more controversial aspect because you look at the return and you're like, damn, can't even get one first round pick for Trae Young. You can't get like a nice young player. Corey Kispert's solid, but he's not exactly a young player at this stage of his career. And then CJ McCollum is really there for that money to work in the expiring contract, but he is still a quality player. He's just a little bit older at this point. Yeah, ultimately the return was disappointing, and I knew Trae Young wasn't going to get sort of this king's ransom. I think that was always clear given his defensive deficiencies, the fact that he needs a new contract soon, and that he isn't having the best season in the world. All those factors sort of put the writing on the wall that it's not going to be a massive return. Yeah, with that being said, it was a little bit underwhelming. At the same time, just based off the reporting leading up to it, it seemed like the Wizards were the only legitimate suitor for Trae Young. So with that, they're going to have a little bit more leverage. And as I mentioned, his value was sort of declining. And there was also some reports that the Hawks were actually going to have to attach draft capital just to move off of Trae Young. Obviously, that didn't end up being the case, but that would have been absolutely wild. And with that, I wasn't totally thrown off by the trade package. But at the same time, when you see that, sort of minimal trade package for Trae Young, who's been an all-star level player, four-time all-star, it is a little bit jarring. Ultimately, though, I do think there are some positives for the Hawks, and it definitely was time to move on from Trae Young, especially if they weren't willing to pay him. There was really no point in keeping him around, and you should get at least some sort of value for him. I think the main positive here, other than just sort of moving into this new era under Jalen Johnson and him being your true franchise star, building around him, I think the real positive would be the cap space for the Hawks. They have $70 million in cap space next offseason, if I'm not mistaken. That's a massive number, and they could really make some big moves with that. There are some reports that they're still targeting an Anthony Davis trade, and that was a big factor why they wanted to move off of Young. Personally, I don't think that's the best move for them. I would maybe look at another deadline move. I don't mind Sabonis' fit in Atlanta. I just think Anthony Davis is a little too injury prone at this point in his career. But ultimately, I would just value the flexibility of having probably the most cap space in the league next offseason, if not some of the most cap space in the league, and trying to make a move that way, whether it be a big offseason trade or trying to sign one of these free agents. I feel like that would be more in Atlanta's best interest with this newfound cap space that they have. So if they end up trading for Anthony Davis, I personally wouldn't be thrilled. The upside's certainly there, but there's just so much risk with him in terms of his injury history. The trade package that's been thrown around for Anthony Davis would be around Kristaps Porzingis, his expiring contract, as well as Luke Kennard, that expiring contract, and Zachary Rizichet, who they took with the number one pick in 2024. Not a bad offer, not overpaying for Davis by any means. At the same time, I feel like it's just a little too risky, and I would just value that sort of flexibility heading into the offseason. I feel like there's better moves to be made, especially given this timeline that they're on now with Jalen Johnson as their main centerpiece and franchise star. He's on the younger side still. I would just go with more of that timeline than the Anthony Davis timeline, which, aside from his immense injury concerns, he's also just on the older side. So yeah, ultimately, this trade isn't going to look great on paper for the Hawks, but it could open up some really nice moves for them down the road. I hope they don't trade for Davis. If they do, it's fine. I don't think it would be a disaster. I feel like they're the clear front runner to land him at this point. So, all right, that's a fine move, and it gives you a little bit more upside now. But ultimately, even if it's not the perfect return, even if it doesn't look great on paper, I think this is ultimately a move that the Hawks had to make. And I do think some of the flexibility aspects will benefit them down the road. So yeah, overall, I'll give it like a B, just because when you're getting back CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert for your four-time All-Star, frankly, one of the best players in franchise history. It's not ideal, but it was really something that had to be done, and they didn't have much of a choice, quite frankly. So yeah, with that being said, let's get into my full conversation with Jacob and Finn. Alright, joining the show now is Jacoblocks and Finn Kuehl. Discuss some role player all-stars. We did this last year. We're doing it again this year. Should be a ton of fun, but first things first, how you boys doing today?
Doing
Good,
good.
man. I'm
Happy to be
excited to be
back.
doing this again.
Yes,
hmm
sir.
Yeah, no, it should be a fun one. So let's just kick things off. Since you guys are the guests, I'll let you start with it. So who's your first role player all-star?
I'll kick us off, and the first guy I do want to talk about is Keldon Johnson. Coming off the bench for the Spurs, he has been incredible. He's like a 6'5" interior force, I feel like is the best way to describe him, because anytime he is on the court, he's going to be living in the paint, whether it's him just driving to the basket or crashing the glass, getting rebounds. He's averaging a career high in rebounds this year, which I thought was pretty impressive considering his minutes have actually gone down. Even beyond that, like embraced like the effort and hustle type of role where he'll dive for a loose ball and then, yell, get the crowd active in the game. And, I feel like a lot of people aren't talking about him in six-man talks. I know, Finn, you just, he's raising up your ladder in the most recent one you just put out, but I definitely feel like he is one of the better impact six-mans, even if his numbers aren't like, the top scorer off the bench or anything. Impact-wise, coming off the bench, he's been incredible.
Yeah, Keldon's like development and journey as a player has just been so fun to watch. The Spurs have been kind of my second team since like DeMar DeRozan got traded there initially, and Keldon quickly became one of my favorite guys when he was younger. And he built up to like the starter. He averaged 20 in 2023 when the Spurs were pretty bad, and now he's kind of had to scale back into this winning role, but he's done such a good job at that. He's just such a spark. He really feels like the heart and soul of the Spurs team, and like from all the content you see, he is like a leader there and like a huge energy guy in their locker room. He's going around. I don't know if you guys have seen it. Big speaker. He's playing like "Party in the USA" and like "Thousand Miles," just like blasting that before a game. So he's a super fun player. Like Jacob said, he's second on my six man of the year ladder right now. Um, really excited about the year he's having.
Yeah, he's been a lot of fun to watch this year, and I mean, honestly, he's surprised me a lot with how he's been able to sort of buy into this role. I feel like earlier in his career, I sort of saw him as like this high volume scorer, but I didn't know what his sort of role would be on this new look Spurs team as they got a little bit deeper. But he's bought in perfectly, and he's been an essential part to their success. And yeah, I mean, the defense and rebounding and stuff has especially impressed me because I feel like that totally wasn't there earlier in his career. Whereas, like I said before, he was kind of just like that microwave scorer, and now he just does a little bit of everything, and he's just a total all around spark plug, which has been a ton of fun to watch. And it's awesome that it's happening on one of the best teams in the league as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, but it seemed for a bit like he could end up being like the odd man out of this Spurs team as they move into contention. Like he's got a pretty tradable salary, but instead he's almost become like indispensable, I feel like. We'll see most of the guys on this Spurs team haven't played in a playoff series before. That includes Keldon. So we'll see like what he can really do as they get to like those higher leverage games. But right now in the regular season, he's just been awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do feel like the way he's sort of evolved his game, especially just like that rebound, defense, energy, all that kind of stuff, I feel like that translates really well to a playoff setting. So I don't really have any concerns, even though he doesn't have a lot of experience. And I mean, like you said, this team overall doesn't have a lot of playoff experience. I mean, they have Cornette and De'Aaron Fox, but those are the only two like key rotational guys that have been in the playoffs at all. And Fox, it was one series. Cornette, it was with the Celtics, but he wasn't even like super important to that championship run. He had last year he was a little bit more important. But yeah, it should be interesting to see how it plays out, and I definitely see Keldon continuing to be an important part of this team.
Yeah, I think the one thing they do have Harrison Barnes too
Oh
in terms
yeah,
of
I
playoff guys.
I blanked
But
on that one.
no, all good. But the one thing with Keldon is like his 3-point shooting has always been super volatile, and this year I believe he's above 40%. I don't know, someone would have to fact check me, but he is shooting really well on a lower volume. He's had years where he shot it really well. He's had years where not so much. I do think he's the guy that like playoff defenses will dare to shoot a little bit. But if he can hit a couple corner threes a game and like keep crashing the glass and cutting, like he's gonna make defenders have to respect him. So no real concerns there, but that's just like the one thing that could hold him back, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. He is at yeah, you're right about that. He is at 41% on the year, which is massive. Looking at his basketball reference right now, last year he was at 31% and the year before like 34. So yeah, that is a massive leap even though it's like on a little bit of a lower volume, but I feel like especially like having those Greek guards has really helped him because they're able to, generate some rim pressure and open up really open looks on the perimeter as well as just like Wemby's gravity of course, has to be mentioned.
Yeah, 100%. They're helping him out. So yeah, love Keldon, and from there I can move into my first guy, one of the best pure shooters in the NBA right now. Honestly on track to be just like one of the all-time pure best shooters, I feel like, and that is the man Sam Money Merrill. This guy is like video game good. He's shooting 8 attempts from three a game right now in just 26 minutes, and he's shooting 44.7%. He's hitting every single type, movement, catch and shoot, 5 feet behind the line, one dribble pull up. It doesn't matter. It's cash every time. He's ninth in the league in 3-point percentage. He's making more per game than like Anthony Edwards, LaMelo Ball, Norman Powell, all these other guys, and he's only playing 26 minutes. Besides that, I feel like he is kind of like an underrated defender. He doesn't really he gets picked on, but he always holds up. He's um he's 86th percentile in ball screen navigation right now according to Basketball Index, and 97th percentile in off-ball chaser defense. I feel like he's just like such a awesome, trustworthy role player. He's got that elite skill. The Cavs have trusted him to start playoff games before, and I think he's a key part of their team, even though they're underperforming this year.
I guess is he your technically like honorary homer pick since not to spoil anything, you didn't have a Bucks player on this. Is he your honorary guy?
He is. Bucks legend. I don't think he ever would have become this good on this team because we just don't give young guys the same opportunity as other franchises. But yeah, he's love Sam Merrill. Love watching him succeed.
Yeah, you mentioned about like the volume that a player like him has, and that's what's always amazed me about how perimeter centric the NBA has turned. That these players are shooting absurd amounts of threes, but still shooting close to 50%. Like that blows my mind on like how much repetition and work goes into getting that elite at your shot to be able to, like you said, 8 attempts per game and just hit almost half of them. Like that is it literally blows my mind every time I think about it.
Right, like think about watching him in an open gym. I don't think he'd miss. It's crazy.
For
Like
real.
just one of the best shooters in the world in like a literal sense.
Yeah, absolutely. He's been awesome. And I mean, like you guys said, the Cavs haven't had a perfect season, but he's been a real bright spot and he's been able to step into that bigger role really nicely. And it's always super impressive, sort of like you guys were saying, that when a guy's volume and efficiency can go up at the same time. And that's exactly what we've seen from him this season. And I mean, the fact that he's averaging 13 points a game is kind of mind boggling to me because he was at, like mostly a 7, 8 points per game kind of guy throughout his career. But yeah, he's been a really big bright spot to this Cavs team. And I also like the point about the defense because he definitely falls into that sort of camp of like a AJ Green or Sam Hauser even where they're targeted a lot defensively, but for the most part they hold up. Are they perfect defenders? No, but they can still find a way to make a positive impact on that side of the ball, which is huge, especially given the immense value they have as shooters.
Yeah, absolutely. Last thing I'll shout out about Sam Merrill is he is the 2024 Benchmark Blog Player of the Year. So alumni succeeding out there, and he's not the only former Benchmark guy I'll talk about. We'll get to the other ones later.
Hell yeah. I'll start things off with Spencer Jones because, I mean, here's a guy who's really just blown me away this season, honestly. He was not on my radar much at all heading into the season, quite frankly, but he's stepped up for this Nuggets team in a way that you really could never imagine. With some of the injuries they've had, he's been incredible. He's started in 21 out of 32 games so far, which is just absurd. And I mean, the thing that really stands out with him is his defense. He's a really, really great on ball stopper, but he's also super versatile. He could guard really anyone. I remember a Rockets game not too long ago where he was sort of, picking up Şengün, but he was also picking up Durant. And that sort of versatility is really impressive. I was looking it up before per crafted NBA, 99th percentile in defensive versatility, which is just a cool stat. And then offensively, he's a really dependable spot up shooter, and he just makes the right reads as a passer, makes that extra pass. So, yeah, I've been super impressed with him. And with all the injuries the Nuggets are dealing with, it's really impressive that they've been able to still be a really high quality team, and Jones has been a big part of that. And shout out to him, one more thing, because he's a two-way guy.
Hey.
He absolutely is, and he's a 5-star guy on twowaytalents.com right now. Unfortunately, doesn't really qualify for bench mob stuff because he's been a starter, but that's awesome. But anyways, yeah, I mean like the defense is phenomenal, like you mentioned, and that got him on the court even just a little bit in his rookie year. He had limited time, but like that's what's helped him earn that opportunity. But now, like the more he starts, you've seen how much his comfort on offense has continued to grow. He's talked about he was on the Old Man in the Three podcast talking about how like Aaron Gordon has been teaching him how to play out of the dunker spot. Like he's trying to learn how to play these off ball roles. That shot is low key ugly, but it goes in. And so yeah, he's just been a really impactful role player. Great, great use of a two-way contract from Denver there. It's really cool to see him succeed.
Yeah, it's been dope, especially in a season like this, where basically their whole starting five has missed time at this point now. And in years past, like Denver has really struggled to kind of find these impactful role players, and to have him step up again with how the season has gone for them has been really great. I feel like he's almost like the blueprint for the type of role player you want on the wing, where like you guys were talking about how he's versatile defensively. He'll spot up and hit a three every once in a while, and then he's smart when he's off the ball. Obviously, playing with a guy like Jokic, it maybe makes it a little easier to be making those cuts because you know you're going to be found. But regardless, he's a very low maintenance type of guy, and I feel like almost every team would love to have his archetype of player.
Absolutely. And I mean, credit, I think a lot of credit belongs to David Adelman on this one, really prioritizing some of the development. And obviously, the injuries have played a role, but I feel like that's been a huge difference with this Nuggets team, whether it be him, a guy like Peyton Watson, just several players on that team. You've seen a lot more development from them, and you've seen a willingness from Adelman, despite having a deeper team, to go to some of these young guys. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the coaching staff over there.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so you just shouted out Peyton Watson, and he's on my list, so we could talk about him next. Stick in Denver. Peyton Watson has been an awesome defender since he entered the NBA. They call him Peyton Swatson. Really fun shot blocker on the wing. He's actually 27th in the league right now in blocks per game as a forward. But what's been really impressive this season, especially with all of Denver's injuries, is how much he's grown on offense. He's averaging a career high 12.2 points per game, well shooting career highs from 2, 3, and the free throw line. He's been working on his off the dribble game, can hit some middies, working on that spot up three, can slash and finish, and he looks just like a really, really awesome role player this year.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a really fun one. And I mean, like you said, the defense has sort of always been there, but seeing a little bit more growth from him offensively, especially in this bigger role, has been really awesome to see. And they're going to have some tough decisions to make with him coming up because they do have a super high payroll, but he's been a really impactful part of this team. But yeah, I mean, just in general, I've been super impressed with him. And it's nice to see that a guy that I think he averaged like what, like 4 points a game in college or something. He was super raw coming into the league. He's just gotten progressively better and better each and every year, and that's been super cool to see, especially considering that he's on one of the best teams in the league.
Like with these defensive specialists, it's always that question on like if their offense can catch up. Like you guys said, he's always been a great defensive playmaker and a guy that's always going to be towards the top of the league in that impact aspect. But the offense this year has been what's really been able to have him be such an impactful player and hit those shots and step up for like we were talking about how Spencer Jones is doing. It's been really fun to watch, especially I think back to that most recent game, I think, against the 76ers when they had their whole starting five out, and you see guys like this really stepping up, and they end up winning that game, and I don't think years past Nuggets teams would be able to win that game.
Yeah, that was a really fun game. A real bench mob win from Denver there. Here's my question for you guys. How much better is Christian Brown than Peyton Watson really?
Not as much as what their contract says, I'll definitely say that. I don't know, like, I think it depends because they kind of do different things. Like Christian Brown obviously being more of like a ball handler. He defensively they're both really good, but Peyton Watson is a little more versatile. I think it would be closer than people would think, especially after we've seen the growth of the offense of Peyton Watson this year. I think I would have to wait till I see maybe both of them on the court with a healthy roster, and then I would be able to give a real answer.
Yeah, no, I agree with that assessment. It is tough to sort of figure out. I think Brown's on like a 20-25 million a year deal, which is a pretty big number. But he's been super valuable. I think Watson's defense is just massive, and I definitely really value that. So yeah, I don't think there's really a wide gap. And I mean, if you're looking ahead to the offseason where Watson's a free agent, and you can maybe get away with paying him like 12 or 15 million, or maybe even a little bit less, who knows? And you might have to sort of trade Christian Brown. I don't think that's the worst idea in the world, to be honest, just because of how valuable his defense is. And for a Nuggets team that traditionally doesn't have a lot of defense, I think that's something that they should prioritize. But I mean, Brown's super valuable to this team offensively, especially just, yeah, the way he can finish, shoot, make the extra pass. He can really do a little bit of everything on that end of the floor. And despite the growth we've seen from Watson, he just doesn't have that same offensive value. So I feel like it just sort of comes down to what you value more, especially in this context of the Nuggets team.
Very fair. I think I'm up next, right? You guys will each put two each? Yeah.
Yes,
So
sir.
my next guy is Isaiah Stewart, and I feel like he honestly, we had the 15 points per game caveat. He kind of felt like a cheat code having him on here just because he's been that good this year. I just think this year has been the perfect encapsulation of like his career almost. And I say that because it seems like he has been so many different players throughout his career. Like he came into the league and he was like an energy type of guy coming off your bench, roll hard to the basket, finish at the rim. Then he turned into like a stretch four for a few years and was taking more threes. They had him in that double big lineup with Jalen Duren a little bit more. Then JB Bickerstaff last year turned him more into like a defensive specialist. And this year, I feel like he's, again, done a great job kind of blending all of that together into one player. He's averaging 10 points, 6 rebounds, 2 blocks per game, coming off their bench being like 6'8", which is crazy. But, he's shooting a little bit more of those threes, knocking them down. He obviously still has that defensive presence and, along with being a great rim protector, is also very versatile and can switch out. And then, he still is obviously that more traditional big he once was too earlier in his career where he'll do the pick and roll, he'll roll to the basket, crash the glass and stuff like that. He's just been super impactful in so many different ways. And shout out to Beef Stew, the New York native. I got to put on for my New Yorkers.
Even though he's a Knicks rival.
It
I
happens.
think you hit, I think you hit a lot of the nails on the head there. He's become one of the most impressive defensive bigs in the NBA, absolutely. Last year he was an interesting case because he was definitely like in all defensive consideration, but he was one of the guys who didn't qualify, not because he didn't play 65 games, I don't think, but because he didn't play enough minutes. Like there's like the minutes per game rule too, which I don't really love, but it exists. And so this year I think he's on track to actually pass that, and then I don't think I'd be surprised at all to see him on an all defensive team. And honestly, like the Pistons could have 3 reps because him and Asar both feel like close to locks. And I don't know about you guys, but I've been pretty impressed with Jalen Duren this year too. I feel like he's improved a lot on that end over his career. But yeah, Isaiah Stewart is just like he is just so Detroit, and he's been
Yeah,
so awesome this year.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you guys really nailed it. I like your point, Jacob, about his sort of evolved throughout his career, and he's really just blended it all together. I think that's a great one. But in general, I don't think the average NBA fan understands just how good of a defender Isaiah Stewart is. And like you said, Finn, definitely an all defensive guy as long as he meets that minutes played requirement. And hell, I've been thinking about like, could he be in the mix for D boy? Could he finish? Maybe not win the award. That seems like a bit of a stretch, but potentially like a top three depoy guy. I don't think that's out of the question for him. Looking at some of his stats now, within 6 feet of the hoop, with Stewart as the closest defender, offensive players are shooting 41%, which is just genuinely absurd. League average is 61. And then, I mean, just overall, a 40% defensive field goal percentage. That's an elite number. So he's been incredible. And like you guys said, he's really the heart and soul of this Pistons team in many ways. And I feel like he sort of gets a bad rep by your average NBA fan because you see him in these like videos where he's getting into fights and stuff, but at the same time, he's just an immensely valuable player for this team. And yeah, a huge reason for their success. And definitely, whenever I watch the Pistons, I'm like, you know who rocks this guy? Isaiah Stewart. He's awesome. I was watching, I think it was Pistons Cavs over the weekend, and I even had the thought, I was like, is he a better defender than Evan Mobley? That genuinely popped into my brain, and I was kind of like debating it. And I'm a Mobley guy, but I think that just goes to show just how good of a defender he is. And then, like you guys said, he brings a lot of value offensively as well.
It's just even more impressive that he is like a undersized center, only being like 6'8", and is still this effective. Like I got to see it up close and personal watching the Knicks game. He held Cat to like 6 points, and obviously he wasn't the only defender on Cat, but he was a big reason on why Cat could not get going. With his strength, his physicality, and his quick feet for his size. Like he again is really versatile defensively, and like you guys have been saying, the average fan I feel like wouldn't look at him and know how good of a defender he is.
Most definitely. So I'll go ahead and move into another big man, kind of a different style of player, but Steven Adams on the Rockets has been absolutely fantastic this season. I think the big thing that has always stood out with Steven Adams has been his rebounding, and that's certainly been the case once again this year. He's been a huge part of their offense that doesn't shoot a lot of threes, but they're really effective in large part because they crash the boards, and Adams has obviously been crucial to that. But beyond that, I feel like one thing that does go a little bit underrated with his game is sort of like that short roll passing, and then just in general, he's one of the best screeners in the NBA. He's just constantly moving around, constantly setting screens up top, really doing a little bit of everything in that regard. So that's been impressive to me as well. And then defensively, he's still just super sturdy, super solid. So yeah, he's been really impressive. And then when you look at how well that double big lineup of him and Şengün have played, that's another huge thing that I'd like to shout out. He has a plus 11 and a half on off swing, which is massive. It's the highest on the Rockets. And then the lineups with Şengün, I don't have the stats for that, but they've also been really good, which I think has been a real weapon for this team and just another guy that's contributing to winning at a really high level.
Yeah, you mentioned him with obviously his offensive rebounding. There's been times where I swear, like the Rockets are like, yo, he's down there. All right, I'm just gonna put up this shot because he could probably get the offensive rebound. Like that's what the offense boils down to at times. And having someone that's that good at offensive rebounding, like I mean, I could speak from personal experience as well with Mitchell Robinson being on the roster. Whenever you have a player like that, like it just seems you take it for granted almost because you're so used to getting just shot after shot after shot, and you could get out of slumps, and you see teams. It's complete momentum shifters, those type of plays, and it's really important to have. And Steven Adams is one of the best, if not the absolute best.
Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned Mitchell Robinson, and like I tweeted something a couple weeks ago that like his offensive rebounding alone makes him better than like 75% of the league's role players. And the very same thing is true with Steven Adams, I think. And that's not even mentioning like all the other stuff he does as a screener, interior defender, finisher, everything. And he seems to be just one of like the noted good guys in the NBA too. So that's fun. So yeah, he's fun to watch, fun to root for, just like one of those unorthodox players who still makes a huge impact. And then I can get into my next guy then because you guys both done two. Next I have Mr. 100% from the Spurs. That's Harrison Barnes. He is just like as steady as it gets as a role player. I think he's shooting 38% on catch and shoot threes this year. He'll still work to defend, and he hasn't missed a game since 2021 2022, and he's like I what 33 now. He's not that old, but he's getting up there. But his durability is just so impressive. He's aged very well, and his experience has just been like super valuable for the Spurs and will continue to be valuable once they make it to the playoffs, given how we talked about it earlier. Most of their guys haven't played in the playoffs yet. So he's just a really fun vet right now, really steady.
You took the exact word that I had written in my notes for Harrison Barnes, steady. He's just like you said, the definition of reliable. He's gonna be in the lineup. He's gonna be knocking down shots. He's gonna be competing defensively. You know exactly what you're getting from Harrison Barnes, and obviously there is a lot of value in that. And then also him as that veteran presence in this super young Spurs team, I think could be a really big difference just because, yeah, like he is one of the only guys with not only playoff experience, but, deep playoff experience. He's been to these finals runs and stuff. So, I do think that he's going to be super important once the playoffs start for them, but also he has been super important in, getting the Spurs to this level.
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys totally nailed it. Steady, consistent, dependable. Those are all sort of the words that come to mind when you think of Harrison Barnes, and he just does a little bit of everything. I think the shooting's super valuable to this team, obviously, but then, yeah, what he brings to the table defensively, and then just a really high IQ player who could just make that extra pass, and he really opens up things for this team. And yeah, it's been an interesting journey throughout his career. Obviously, he was on those Warriors teams, and then he got a bag with the Mavericks and stuff like that. But yeah, he's just always been just super reliable, super consistent, and I think that sort of veteran presence is massive for this Spurs team, and he just feels like such a San Antonio Spurs guy. And honestly, I did not realize that he hadn't missed a game since what 2021, 2022. That's insane, especially given his age. And one quick shout out University of North Carolina, Harrison Barnes.
Hey.
The other like two random sneaky things I like about Harrison Barnes is that he's always been like sneaky good at getting to the free throw line. He's drawing fouls on 26th percentile rate this year on his drives. He gets to that line. He drives less than he used to, more just shoots threes, but like he's willing to play physical. And he's also pretty clutch. He's hit a lot of big shots in his career, and it still feels like he does that from that corner. Mr. 100%. So yeah, he's fun player.
Absolutely. That's an awesome nickname, Mr. 100%.
Yeah, I love it. That alone makes him like a little bit more likable.
I guess I'll go up next. This is where I will finally give my homer pick. I got Deuce McBride. I was close back and forth between him and Mitchell Robinson, so I'm happy that we were able to still at least talk a little bit about Mitchell Robinson. But with Deuce McBride, I mean, it's been amazing to watch him grow as a Knicks fan from the start of his career, coming in as a second round pick. He didn't get a lot of burn early on, but then he would just slowly get more opportunity, more opportunity, more opportunity. And it seems like every time he's gotten more opportunity, he's been able to give more production. And now he has very quickly turned into one of the best 3-and-D guards in the entire league. And I don't say that as hyperbole or anything. Like, he legit is one of the best shooters and one of the best defenders at the guard position. I don't know what it currently is, but a few games ago, they said he was like 43 out of his last 83 pointers or something like that. He comes off the bench, is ready to shoot. He's up to 46% on the year, shooting over 6 attempts per game. You add that with his super physical defense on the perimeter, and he's one of the most impactful bench player, or not even bench, but role players in the league that, again, almost every team would want on their roster.
Yeah, early on in his career, it was clear that Deuce was a pretty awesome defender, like had the chops to get on the floor early. And then, like you mentioned, his growth as a shooter has just been crazy. I was just seeing a side by side the other day of what his shot looked like when he was a
Mm-hmm.
rookie versus what it looks like now. He's
He
put
gets
that
so much
release
more
point.
lift.
Yes, it's nice and high. He's getting it up over
Mm-hmm.
anybody from three from the mid range, and that allows him to take and make just like more types of looks, and he's more of a real threat. It really does feel like, I mean, probably like last year, but this is like the first year where it's like, oh, this is real 3-and-D complete, like very good on both sides of the ball. And man, I've been seeing him kind of in like trade rumors potentially. Jacob, I know you made a package involving him to get, was it Royce O'Neal? And it would kind of be a bummer to see him go because he's been like important for that team, but either
The the
way,
the only reason I did include that is, so he's not a free agent this coming off season, but the one after that. So I was kind of thinking ahead. He's also on a super small contract, and I know the Knicks don't have a lot of cap space. So unfortunately, I think regardless, his next contract is not going to be with the Knicks. So again, I was kind of getting ahead of myself and trying to fully buy in now. That was also before we went on this 4-game win streak. So maybe I'm going to be a little more conservative. I was feeling high coming off that NBA Cup championship. Hope he doesn't get traded. I just was looking contract value wise. He's one of the only movable contracts on the roster that's not like one of our top guys. So I do think that if the Knicks were to do something more than just trading like Yabusele at the deadline, he might be included, which again would kind of suck, but you got to give to get. So
no, that's good fandom. I mean, that does feel like realistic. He is probably more dispensable than some of the other guys on this team. Like, you still got McCall, you still got Hart, you still got OG, you still got Shamit and Clarkson. So
mm,
if you could get another guy at a similar value. Also, I wasn't even really thinking about the contract. That makes sense. But either way, Deuce rocks.
hell yeah, yeah. I think he's only making like $4 million or something like that, which yeah, got him on a good deal.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's an awesome player, and I feel like sort of with Tyler Kolek's emergence, he's gone a little bit under the radar, but he's quietly still having the most productive season of his career. And he's still just a crucial part of this Knicks team. And yeah, I mean, the defense is always really fun, especially because he's a smaller guard. I always like to see that from role players, just guys who are a little bit smaller but just defend their ass off. I think that's always fun to watch. And then the 3-point shooting is obviously massive for this Knicks team, and the connective playmaking as well. I feel like I'm going to say that word a lot, but with role players, it's really big just to be able to make that extra pass, even if you're not like a traditional lead guard. And that allows him to play with just a lot of different players on this Knicks team. I mean, he can fit with Brunson because of sort of that skill set, and I think that's super valuable to this Knicks team. And just in general with the Knicks and Jacob, you of course understand this a lot. I mean, their bench has just been so much better, and I feel like that definitely changes just the overall upside of this team.
Yeah, for sure. It's been, they've even had some fun experimenting with three guard lineups where it'll be like Brunson, Deuce, and Kolek, or Brunson, Deuce, and Clarkson. So I think Deuce being such a tenacious defender, it allows them to do that because, like you said, he's only 1, but I believe he has like 9 wingspan or something like that. And then with his defensive skills, like it definitely makes up for the lack of size.
All right. You gave your homer pick. I guess it's time to get into one of my. I do have two homer picks, so I'll get into the first one. And Neemias Queta has been fantastic, and he has surprised me so much this season. I did have certain concerns about him being this starting center. I think it's kind of reasonable given that he wasn't super proven, but I mean, he's proved that he's ready to take on this bigger role, and he's been fantastic. And I've really been impressed with Queta's ability to really make the little plays, and really his basketball IQ has just grown exponentially this season. He's catching lobs. I mean, the screening's always been there, but sometimes he sort of set those illegal screens and he would get into foul trouble as a result. He's cut back on that a lot. Defensively, his positioning is just so much better. He holds up better on switches, and he's a really good rim protector, really good rebounder. So yeah, he's just really shocked me as that like lone mainstay of the Celtics rotation throughout the year. Luka Garza has been emergent as of late, but he's sort of been in and out of the rotation. So for him to be like the lone true rotational center throughout this season, and for him to be this good, not just a consistent double double threat, but an impactful double double threat who really does the little things well and has really blossomed into a really smart and impactful role player, has really shocked me. And then just one quick stat I'd like to share: he ranks in the 96th percentile per cleaning the glass in terms of defensive on-off numbers, which honestly I would have never totally expected. But yeah, he's just wowed me this season. And when you talk about the Celtics exceeding expectations, there's a lot of factors that go into it. I mean, Jaylen Brown obviously playing some of the best basketball of his career. Missoula getting the most out of this core has been huge. These role players, whether it's like a Jordan Walsh, Ugo Gonzalez, whatever the case may be, there's a lot that goes into it. But Kate is a big reason for their success.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think like before the season, so many people talked about like, oh, the Celtics don't really have a center. They don't really have a center. And people don't really talk about that much now. In part because the Celtics are winning games, but it's also because of Kata and his improvement. I was listening to the Dunker Spot today with Nikias Duncan and Steve Jones, and Nikias was saying like he's more impressed with Kata on offense, like significantly compared to his defense. And I was a little surprised to hear that because Kata is like he's a shot blocker, really good. Like the numbers love him on defense, but I'm curious, like which side of the ball do you like him more?
Well, I think there's two different things. I think he's more impactful on defense as that shot blocker, rim protector, and even shown off some of that switchability this season. But what side of the ball has he surprised me more on? It's definitely the offense because he did get in a lot of foul trouble, and I mean there was some like trigger happiness on defense and stuff like that. But a lot of times it was just like set in an illegal screen or like something silly like that on offense, and those mistakes are just totally non-existent this year. And then also his hands have gotten a lot better. His ability to even like make some short roll passes has been there, which has really impressed me. So I would say his defense is still more impactful. I think that's kind of hard to argue, but his offense has surprised me more.
Real quick, I just want to echo Eamon your point right there. I know a lot of people, myself included, are kind of surprised at the Celtics being this high in the standing still. And like you mentioned, Jaylen Brown having his MVP like season is one of the big reasons. But kind of like what Finn was saying, I was looking at the biggest hole on this roster being the center position for the Celtics. And yeah, Neemias Queta being able to step up and be this starting level center was something that I liked him. I thought that he shown flashes and could be like a rotational piece, but I wasn't too sold on him being like a full-time starter. Now it seems like every game he kind of convinces me a little bit more, and he might be your guy's starting center, or at least at the minimum be a part of your rotation when JT is back and when you're back fully trying to be one of those top contenders.
Yeah, absolutely. we'll probably get into this a little bit more because I know somebody asked us about this in terms of like the Celtics upside and stuff like that. But in general, I sort of have changed my perspective heading into the season. I thought they would have to eventually at some point, maybe not this deadline, maybe it's the summer, whatever, sort of target a really high quality level center to fill that void. But now I really feel like this team just maybe needs one more backup center and Tatum to return, and they're going to be back in like the clear title contention picture. Yeah, I mean, Queta just, he couldn't be more impressive to me.
Keita is like sneaky. He wouldn't actually contend for most improved player because the numbers just like aren't quite there. And there's guys like Keontae George, but like when you talk about guys who just have made significant leaps and improvements from like not really a player to like legit player, Keita's got to be up there. Um, and another guy who's kind of done that this year is my next guy, Jordan Goodwin. His NBA journey has been a really fun one. He started off like his first NBA contract was one of those COVID 10 days back in 2022. And then he made his way onto the Wizards on the two-way. He started getting minutes early on when like they were having some backcourt injuries, proved himself as a really fun defender, kind of bounced around, and now he's having a career year in Phoenix. He's an absolute defensive dog. He's averaging 1.4 steals per game this year, and he doesn't even play that many minutes. He's been huge in the backcourt, and he's having the best shooting year of his career as well. He's making 1.6 a game, shooting 37% from deep. So he's just this real gritty 3-and-D guard who's really helped the Suns overperform. They've got kind of this like defensively active system. They're pressuring the ball a lot, forcing turnovers, and they got a lot of role players who hit threes. He fits right into that. And every time I watch him, I just think about how much the Lakers have to regret letting him go.
For sure.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that point about like the Lakers regretting cutting or parting ways with him. That is also something I think of all the time. But yeah, just in general, I mean, the defense is just so impressive, and the energy he brings is incredible. Especially with his size. I mean, this was way back earlier in the season, but I remember that game against the Spurs, like he guarded Wemby a lot, despite being like a foot shorter, which was just insane. And then yeah, beyond that, the offensive growth, especially this year, has been impressive. I think he had that game recently against the Thunder where he had like 26, 27 points. That was just totally insane. So yeah, he's been an awesome player, and for this Suns team that's totally turned around their culture and turned around their identity, he's been a really big part of that.
Yeah, I think I kind of mentioned it when we were talking about Peyton Watson, but when you're like a defensive specialist and that offense finally comes around, it like completely transforms you as a player. And if he's able to actually keep this, level of three-point shooting up, he will definitely be able to stay in the NBA, get another contract, continue his career. It's kind of, it makes sense because like obviously at the end of the day, the game is about putting the ball in the hoop, but it's crazy that like one skill set can really change a player's whole trajectory. He's able to add this 3-point shot, now having a career year. And since we were just talking about the Suns, I might as well bring up my next player because he's also a Sun. Collin Gillespie, a similar kind of situation where they were able to find him out of nowhere, basically signed him to a minimum. Pretty much ever since Chris Paul left the Suns, they've been looking for real point guard play, and now they finally have it here with Collin. I like that he's able to have the ball in his hands, let D-Book chill a little bit, play more off the ball. He's able to get the team involved, but also look for his own shot. He's been one of the best three-point shooters in the whole league, whether it's off the dribble or off the catch. He's shooting 42% on threes, and it's over 7 attempts per game, so he's a high-volume guy. And then, also at the end of the day, too, it is Devin Booker that you have on your roster, so there's some times where you want to just give him the ball, let him clear out. He's really good off the ball with that three-point shot being in his repertoire, so he's still a threat on or off the ball. And again, he's been finally giving them some real point guard minutes that Phoenix has desperately needed for years.
Yeah, I think Gillespie has honestly just been like one of the most fun players in the NBA this year, given his story and his breakout and like watching him play, he's just such a competitor. The shooting stands out so much. He's really elite, like you mentioned, on the high volume. And I think I think he honestly is like a sneaky real MIP candidate. Again, probably won't quite get up there, but like I think he's also made some like moments on the national stage, like his game winner against maybe like the Timberwolves. Like people are taking notice. It's like I don't think he'll win it, but he's up there. And he was up there for sixth man of the year too, but now he's just been starting. So he might fall out of that. But like either way, he's just having an awesome year as a guy who's come up out of nowhere. He's been so fun.
Hmm.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, what an awesome story, and he was awesome in college too. But sort of that size concerns, I feel like, and the age that always hurts guys. And he was on that Nuggets team the year after they won the title, or maybe it was the year they won the title,
I think he
whatever.
was. I think he was on the. Yeah, he won
The
it with
He
title
them.
team.
was, but he was hurt. He didn't play a
Oh, okay.
game.
Yeah.
So like his rookie year was the next year, but he is an NBA champion technically.
There you go. That experience is always valuable. But yeah, he was definitely a guy. I mean, especially we saw a little bit towards the end of last season. He was really coming into his own. And I thought he was going to have kind of like a quote unquote breakout season, but I envisioned that as him establishing himself as a clear rotational player for the Suns, not a clear like started point guard. So that's really impressed me. And yeah, I mean, like you said, Jacob, just the blend of on and off ball abilities next to Booker is massive. And yeah, he's really in some ways the perfect point guard to have next to Booker. That blend of playmaking and shooting is just super impressive. And, I mean, the Suns just in general, we talked about it with Goodwin, but what a story this year.
Yeah, Eamon, you mentioned how awesome he was in college, and that reminds me, like I wrote an article last March after Drew Timmy signed with the Nets and was like putting up double doubles and stuff about how like teams maybe need to start looking at like really good college players more seriously as NBA prospects, even if they're kind of funky, just because like a lot of guys who are really good in college could also succeed in the pros, and like Drew Timmy, and he might actually not work out, but like Collin Gillespie is another guy that I mentioned in that article because that was when he was kind of starting to break out last year, starting a few games, and now he's just like skyrocketed. He always just felt like such a professional player, and now like he's got confidence and freedom, and he's just really excelled.
Yeah, similar to that point, I feel like I mean Eamon talked about it too. Like sometimes I think front offices overthink it. Like they'll be like, "Oh, this guy's already 23. We can't draft him." It's like, but then he could still be an impactful player. And like, I get if you're the Charlotte Hornets and you're trying to build something from the ground up. Yeah, you want to go a little younger. You want to do whatever. But like, you could still get impactful players on rookie contracts. Like, I feel like sometimes teams just overthink it a little too much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, most definitely. I'm just such a big proponent of, hey, guess what? This guy was awesome in college. He's probably going to be awesome in the NBA. So yeah, I really love that. And then, yeah, I mean, just in general, I feel like if you're a competitive team, I would sort of lean towards those older prospects. There's certainly some examples of competitive teams taking a swing at a younger guy and it working out, but I feel like in general, it's best to sort of target those multi-year guys if you're a competitive team. And I think sort of in this new era of the NIL, I think we're going to see a lot more of that. A lot of guys come back to school for 2, 3, maybe even 4 years, and ultimately becoming better NBA players as a result because they're more ready to contribute. Another guy who kind of fits the mold of just an awesome player in college who took a while to stick in the NBA, but is once again awesome in the NBA is Davion Mitchell. He is really, really impressed me. And just beyond that, I feel like it's kind of an inspirational story because he was a lottery pick with Sacramento back in 2021. It took him like 4 or 5 years to stick, really. But then once he got traded to the Heat in the middle of last season, he really, really blossomed. And he's another guy. We've talked about a lot of sort of similar players to this where the defense was always there with Mitchell, but the offense just totally wasn't. And since that Heat trade, really, he's been just a super impactful role player. And I mean, I think the thing that really stands out to me is the playmaking this year, especially in this new look Heat offense where they just don't run a ton of ball screens. He's really made it work, and he's been a fantastic lead playmaker. He's top five in the league in assist to turnover ratio. And then just the spot up shooting as well, having that combination of being able to hit shots and make plays for others is huge. He's especially since that trade to the Heat once again. I mean, he's really taken off as a shooter. And I mean, I know it's kind of a cliche to say, but he really does embody Heat culture, truly. And yeah, I mean, he's just been awesome. And once, I mean, the defense, I feel like I kind of glossed over. Yeah, he's a good defender, or whatever. But he's like 6'1", 6 foot nothing, and for him to be that good, that impactful on defense, he can really guard anyone. He's truly one of the best point of attack defenders in the league. It's like genuinely like inspirational stuff. It's just awesome to watch, and I loved his game at Baylor, and I was a little bit kind of sad that he wasn't taking off immediately in the NBA, but hey, sometimes it just takes a few years, and I'm super happy he's found the spot in Miami, and he's just been such a fun guy to watch this year.
Yeah, it really feels like he's found a home in Miami. I mean, like him landing with the Kings, I think a lot of people were skeptical of that from the beginning, not because of him as a player, but it's just because oh, you're going next to Fox and at the time Tyrese Halliburton, but then like Monk was there, and like just because the scoring didn't really take off and the backcourt was occupied, he just didn't really have that opportunity. But the defense has always been there, and now getting to the Heat where he fits their like ideal style of play. He's been able to just like get comfortable. That shooting that we saw in college has come back. And man, like his playoff run last year was just like one of the more fun and impressive individual playoff performances from the overall 2025 playoffs just because he was just role player, but he was like their best player in that granted short series against the Cavs. So he's a super fun player, probably top three nickname in the league in off night, right up there with Mr. 100%. So yeah, I love that shout out. Davion's really fun.
Yeah, I got a lot of love for Davion. I might be a little biased just because when I play basketball in real life, my top two skill sets would definitely be playmaking and defense. So, maybe I'm just seeing a little bit of me in Davion. But yeah, like you said, he's kind of been fitting what Miami needs perfectly. The drive and kicks have been there all season. He gets to the paint, keeps the ball moving. And yeah, I know you mentioned the assist to turnover ratio, but just so everyone knows the numbers, 7.5 assists to just 1.8 turnovers. Like he's been really efficient with the basketball. And in his first full season with the Heat, he has been everything that they need and more, honestly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. One of you guys want to go and give your last guy?
Jacob, go
Uh,
ahead.
yeah, I'll finish it up. My last guy I had on here was Jusuf Nurkic. I've had a lot of fun watching Utah Jazz basketball this year. They've been a little bit of a surprise for me. Not that they're, in the playoff picture or anything, but they're definitely winning more than I expected at this point of the year. And also, again, have just been more fun to watch than I expected. I think a big part of that is their offense. They are a really high powered offensive team. And a lot of people are giving credit to Laurie Marketing, Keontae George, which rightfully so. They definitely both deserve that. But I feel like Jusuf Nurkic is a very underrated part of how they run their offense. First off, him as a screen setter has been amazing. I know we were talking about the screen setting of Steven Adams a little bit earlier, but Jusuf Nurkic sometimes like kills people on these screens, it seems like. And a lot of times they'll be running, whether it's a dribble handoff, traditional pick and roll, a pin down screen. Regardless, he is making an impactful screen, and they run a lot of that in their offenses. And then also, the rebounding is there, and he's averaging a career high 4.5 assists per game while only averaging 25 minutes per game, which was very surprising to me. I feel like Nurkic has always been a positive passer at the center position, but for him to be averaging a career high in these limited minutes really puts you in perspective, like how much he's a part of their offense. And again, I feel like it's been kind of just under the radar because everyone's looking at Laurie and Keontae score like 50 points.
Yeah, I love Jacob when I watched your video about Keontae George that you kind of snuck that Nurkic shout out in there with his screening because yeah, I mean he really just has been like a glue fit in Will Hardy's offense with his ability to be that passing hub, which is something that he kind of tapped into in Phoenix too. I remember low lights would circle of just some of his boneheaded turnovers, but like that'll happen because he kind of goes for like those high risk passes. But yeah, I mean, people forget that Nurkic was like a good starter with the Blazers for a while. Screening has always been something he's excelled at. Rebounding too, and interior defense as well is something that he's graded out pretty well in terms of advanced analytics. I don't know if the impact is quite up with those stats on the night tonight, but like offensively, he's just become like a really fun glue piece.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's a guy that's really, really wowed me this season, which I don't feel like I say often about a guy who's been playing for as long as he has. But yeah, I mean, he was kind of viewed as like this negative asset with Phoenix. Goes to Charlotte, and then they trade Colin Sexton and I believe draft capital to get him. And I feel like that move, including for me, was like, wait, what are the Jazz doing here? But he's been a real positive for this team. And especially with Walker Kessler going down with injury, he's provided just a ton of value. And I mean, yeah, he's genuinely one of the best screen setters in the NBA, and that's a real skill that just doesn't get talked about enough. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I believe he's top three or top five in screen assist, which is huge. And then yeah, that high post playmaking that he has is just super valuable, and it unlocks a lot with this Jazz offense. And I feel like Will Hardy is a awesome coach. Doesn't get enough credit for it because he's on this like weird Jazz team, but I feel like he's really found ways to maximize his skill set, and I do feel like he's a perfect fit next to like Lowry and Keontae. So yeah, I feel like yeah, he's just been really awesome for this team, and can't say enough about his impact, especially given what consensus was around him last year.
Yeah, he kind of got dragged through the mud a little bit last year, and now that there's not so much pressure to like win every single game, you're not playing next to KD and D Book where they're having these championship aspirations. He definitely, you could see his impact more and almost appreciate it a little bit more now.
Yeah, absolutely. Eamon, you mentioned Will Hardy. I won't go on a Will Hardy tangent, but I love him too. But I did just want to say that like the Nurkic Sexton trade is just one of like the funniest trades that has happened in recent years that like in the moment it was kind of just like a what like just like what is not only was it like unexpected in terms of the destination, but just like the value. I guess I thought so much higher of Sexton than people around the league did.
Me too.
And so like now whenever I'm trying to think of like mock trades and stuff, that one just like completely makes me rethink how much I'm valuing players in trades. But honestly, like this year, Nurkic has maybe been a second round pick better than Sexton. Sexton's having a good year in limited minutes. I mean, the Hornets haven't really been like trying to prioritize him. I still think he's better, but Nurkic has been great. But yeah, I'll give my last player then. It's a guy who went from a OKC Thunder tank commander to now one of the best like bargain role players in the league, and that is Vit Krejci from the Atlanta Hawks. He has been an excellent shooter this year. He's had some crazy like hot streak microwave moments in games, and he's actually third in the league right now in 3-point percentage at 46.7%. His shot is so quick and clean, and he gets it off coming off screens. You can't stop him. And on top of that, he really is like a solid defender and passer too. There was this moment, I think it was maybe against the Sixers, where like Paul George called for an ISO, try to get a switch against Krejci, and then Krejci got the stop. Like they were like hunting him, but he let him know who he is. So he's yeah great on both ends as a role player, and he's making less than 3 million a year. He just it's like it's such a steal, and the Hawks have kind of underperformed this year too, kind of like what we talked about with the Cavs and Merrill. But Vit Krejci has become a really fun role player.
What really impresses me about Vit is how skilled he is. Like he's a big guy. I think he was 6'8" when last time I looked it up. But he is super skillful. I know you mentioned his 3-point shooting, which is definitely like his biggest skill set that he's showing off this year. But I feel like even in years past, we could see a little bit more that he's a solid ball handler. He's a solid passer too. And just all around, just again, a really skillful player. And you don't really see that many people with his size with that same skill set, and you mentioned the great contract he's on too. He could definitely give a lot of teams a lot of value.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the combination of his size and skill set's just super impactful. And I mean, a lot has been made of like the Hawks without Trae Young and stuff, but just how many guys they have with size and the ability to sort of make reads as a playmaker, handle the ball is really valuable. Whether it's, I mean, obviously Nikhil Alexander Walker, Dyson Daniels, Jalen Johnson, guys like that definitely plays a big part in that as well. And I don't feel like he gets discussed enough. And I mean, yeah, the shooting and playmaking blend really stands out to me. And then he also, like you guys have said, he has some really solid defensive chops as well. So yeah, just a really good all around player. And the Hawks are likely going to be entering into a new era, but I hope he can still be a big part of it. And yeah, he's just a really impactful role guy that really just doesn't get talked about much, but he should.
I do wonder if a contender might kind of try to pick him off from the Hawks. I mean, the Hawks are obviously trying to compete. Like, they don't necessarily need to trade him, but like, just given how valuable that contract is, like a contender, if they're like, hey, we'll give you 3 second round picks. I mean, I don't know
What
exactly
if
what
we
his
give
value
them
would look like.
Yabusele? I'll give him
Hey,
Yabusele
maybe,
for him. Let's work a
maybe
deal,
the
Atlanta.
the Hawks don't rebound that well this year. I was looking at their stats earlier, and they could use some size, but I don't know. You'd probably have to give up some draft capital. But either way, no matter where he's playing, Vit Krejci feels like a real winning role player now.
Most definitely, yeah. No, I am curious about that too, especially because the Hawks do have like a lot of similar type of players. But regardless, he's an impactful guy. I think we can move ahead to my last one, and I guess it's technically another homer pick, but I got Donte DiVincenzo here. I don't think I realized just how great of a glue guy DiVincenzo is before I watched every Timberwolves game. But man, he's awesome, and I think most of his impacts people bring up is just how elite of a movement shooter he is, catch and shoot guy, all that, which is definitely understandable because he is one of the better 3 point shooters in the league. And he really does an awesome job with that. However, he just does all the little things so well. And recently, past 8 games, he's been shooting below 30% from three, but he's been a positive contributor in every single game. As someone who's watched literally every second, I can genuinely attest to that. The playmaking and the hustle just really stand out. A lot of people say, "Oh, he's the point guard for this team since Mike Conley moved to the bench role." That's not really true. It's sort of a point guard by committee. I would say it's more so like Ant and Julius, but he's still like an awesome connective playmaker, and he just makes most of the time the right reads. Just the extra pass. He can bring up the ball and initiate the offense. Sometimes he doesn't do it a whole lot, but when he does a pretty solid job of it. And it's just like the high IQ play with him really stands out. And then defensively, I think he's a better defender than he gets credit for. Last year, maybe it's because I just didn't watch as much games. I didn't watch every second of the Timberwolves. But I feel like his defense has been a lot better. And I mean, some of the stats back that up. But I mean, whether it's just like deflections, playing the passing lanes, making that extra rotation, help side defense. He really does all of that at a high level. He's not some like elite point of attack defender, but he just does all the other things so well. And it's not a coincidence that he has a plus 11.4 on off swing, which is the highest on the Timberwolves team. Yeah, he just does everything at such a high level. And I feel like he gets boxed into this mold as like a movement shooter when in reality, and you guys can attest to this because he's been on your teams before, he does just a little bit of everything, and he's really, in some ways, he feels like the heart and soul of this team to me at some points, and he's just an awesome glue guy.
Yeah, I was actually gonna mention like this is a fun shout out because he's been on all three of our teams. And yeah, like the way he's taken off since the Bucks traded him has been both like awesome and like mildly irritating as a Bucks fan. I still think we traded him at the right time, but that's neither here nor there. I mean, like we saw with the Warriors, then going to the Knicks, like the shooting and that decision making and the grit and just like how valuable it is. And now he's playing maybe the biggest role of his career with the Timberwolves, and it's been just as important. It's all coming together, and I think he's going to be key for them in the playoffs again this year.
Yeah, the thing like you were kind of speaking to before, Eamon, he is like first team all competitor. Like, if his 3 point shot is not falling, which on most nights it is, if it's not, he will chase around the screens and compete defensively. He will crash the glass and, get some rebounds. His playmaking has kind of stood out for me this year. I think that's because, like you said, it's more of a point guard by committee for the Timberwolves this year. But like we saw little flashes throughout his career, a little bit in Golden State, a little bit with the Knicks. Now he's really having the ball in his hands a little bit more, so that's where we're seeing all of that from. But yeah, I think he definitely deserves to graduate above that just 3 point shooting label. He definitely provides way more than that. I don't know what label you would really give him, but definitely is more than just a 3 point shooter.
Yeah, most definitely. And I mean, just two quick points to close it out that I meant to say earlier, but his nickname is the Big Ragu. Some people within Timberwolves media have given him the nickname the Big Raglu. So when talking about nicknames, I feel like that's an awesome one that's a little bit under the radar. And then just in general, this is kind of a lame one, but like when I play pickup basketball, this is like my new like comparison. Whenever I'm watching him, I'm just trying to figure out how I can implement certain aspects of his game because he really just makes the most of what he has when he's not like super quick or whatever, but he finds a way to make an impact in any way he can. And the energy stuff really, really stands out, especially for a Timberwolves team that just kind of lack energy a little bit. So yeah, just he's been an awesome watch and he's really surprised me.
Yeah, you know, it's
So
never too
what?
late in life to get better at basketball. I love that you're like watching tape, working on your game, and he's a great guy to model your game after. I might have to start digging into the tape myself.
I was gonna say it sounds like we got to run some threes at one point. I know, Eamon, you got the strap on you. You can shoot like that.
Absolutely. I would say I'm a little, I mean, I feel like most people this is the case. I'm a little bit of a streaky shooter, but when I get going, I definitely get going. And then I'm not like a point guard, but more of that like off ball guy, just makes the right passes and stuff. And then defensively, the effort will be there. Physical limitations at some point, but the effort's always there, which is the big thing.
So I
Heck
know it's a
yeah.
little bit of a tangent, but Finn, does that mean am I running point guard or are you running point guard then? I don't know what's your game.
No, you're definitely running point. I probably count myself to like Gary Trent Jr. or Malik Beasley. Like I'm like primarily a shooter off guard too, can kind of like attack a closeout.
So my
I'm
driving
like,
kicks are gonna be crazy in these 3-on-3 games, and
yeah, we're going crazy. We're going like full pace and space. Gang rebounding, I guess. I mean, if you're Donte DiVincenzo, then you can rebound pretty well. So we'll go with that. But yeah, we would just outshoot everybody, I guess.
hell
Jacob,
yeah,
you're guarding the other team's best player. Sounds
fine by
like.
me.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I mean, I feel like in threes especially, that can be kind of dangerous, even if you don't have that size. If you're just hustling, making passes, cutting, crashing the glass, that can be dangerous no matter, the size or whatever, if nobody's the traditional center. So yeah, no, I still always have a fun time playing basketball.
Oh yeah.
Hell yeah.
Well, because you got so much more space playing 3-on-3. It's like if you got a slightly bigger guy, but he's a little slower, you could take advantage of that easily.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, it's always fun to run like full fives, but definitely like 3-on-3 is definitely where I'm at my best because there's just so much more space, like you said.
100%.
100%.
All right, we can
Oh
get
man,
into
now we got to run it at some point. I don't know how or when, but like,
Summer
gotta be
league, one of
excited.
these summer leagues coming up.
Yes, yes.
that would be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'd definitely be down. That'd be a lot of fun. I think we can get into some questions though. Got a good amount of questions. So first, starting over on Instagram, first one we got from my guy Jasper Kaliba. He wants to know how serious of a contender the Celtics are.
You mean you want to go first on this
I
one?
was
This
gonna
is
pass
more
it off to
key.
you guys, but I could go first if
If
you
you need to
want.
think, I can give an answer.
No, I just felt like it was best to remove my bias, but either way.
Okay, I'll go first, and then you can kind of combat us. I mean, honestly, like, I think probably not super serious. I'm just like, I'm skeptical of Jason Tatum returning because like I don't want him to rush it. I don't think anybody wants that. And even if he does come back, like I don't think he'd be fully at 100%. Um, I think, I mean, shoot, man, I guess this team could win like a playoff series. Before the season, I was kind of thinking they maybe almost should punt it just a little bit because they have their pick. But like the way they've been playing, it's like, okay, yeah, this is still the Celtics, just minus Jason Tatum. So they could like they're gonna be a tough series no matter what. But like I don't really think they're a real contender at this point.
Yeah, I kind of agree on that same point. I think they could potentially win like a first round matchup depending on who they go against, especially if they keep, this top four seeding. But when you look at that second round, I mean, they would probably be matched up against the Knicks or the Pistons or I don't know, Philly, I think is the third, or no, they would be the third seed right now, but still, it would be a tough matchup in that second round. And, again, I don't know how healthy or what level of Jason Tatum we would be getting, if at all. So it's just a little bit too much of a question mark for me to say that they could definitely like make it back to the conference finals or something.
Yeah, just to add one more thing, I think what makes it a little tough is like so many of their guys are kind of not proven playoff players. Queta, for example, as the starting center, or like Anthony Simons hasn't really played much playoff ball in his career. You got like Jordan Walsh, rookie Hugo Gonzalez, Luca Garza as your backup center. Like these are fun players who are working in the regular season, but when you get to that playoff series and you don't have that like full experience, obviously you have like the leader guys who have been there, they've won the championship, but it's tough to like project exactly what they would look like with so many new faces in the lineup.
Yeah, no, I mean, I know I said didn't want to answer it because of my bias, but I do agree with you guys at the end of the day. This is not like a legitimate title threat. As currently constructed, I would say there's a chance that they could potentially be like a Eastern Conference Finals threat, maybe even a Finals threat. If they make a move at the deadline, I just am sort of skeptical of that. I mean, like hypothetically, if you add like Zubac to the team, I feel like it is, but I don't think that's a realistic possibility. Ultimately, I know that's something a lot of Celtics fans want to see. I just personally don't see that happening. And then also, it is questionable how good Tatum will be when he returns. I think he's still going to contribute at a high level. I just don't know if it's going to be like that top five, top 10 level in the league that we're used to seeing from him. And yeah, Finn, I agree with your point about just not a lot of proven playoff contributors. As currently constructed, this seems to me like a good regular season team. Who knows? I mean, I feel like we've seen more of those like random conference finals runs, despite not being a legitimate like title threat. So maybe I could see that from the Celtics if like the bracket and maybe injuries break their way. But yeah, ultimately, I don't think they're that serious of a title threat. And actually, despite him asking this question, I think that will make Jasper happy because he's a Sixers fan. Next up, we got Super Mario Hoops. Our guy Super Mario Hoops wants to know, will the Raptors win a playoff series this year?
That's a good one. I think that really heavily depends on who they match up against because I don't know where they are currently in the standings, but I feel like they're in that range where they could face off against potential Sixers or maybe even the Celtics, depending on who's in that range. It would have to be one of those teams for them to pull off the upset, if you want to call it that, because like, against one of the more serious, top contender teams like the Pistons or the Knicks, I just don't think that they have enough spacing. I think that teams would just, pack the paint and then stall their offense out. I know it's easier said than done in that, in doing that. But I do think that I don't think they would have enough to win a playoff series, no.
Wait, because was the question, can they or will they?
I guess that's different.
It was will they?
Will they? No.
Yeah, I'm saying no. I mean, like obviously once you're in the playoffs, like anyone can win that series, and like this Raptors team is fun, and they have like a solid recipe with length and like creators kind of across the board. But I just don't. I'm not sure about that half court offense in a playoff series. I think you'd be relying a lot on like Brandon Ingram's tough shot making. You'd be relying a lot on Barrett hitting his threes at a decent rate. You want quickly to be good quickly, not bad quickly. I love Samamu, but like their bench just like hasn't been super impressive this year overall. So yeah, I don't know. Like there's some tough matchups for them, and I don't think I'd predict that they will. But like they could definitely give someone like a tough 6 games.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I feel like they'll be a tough out in the first round. And maybe if the matchup breaks right, they could win a playoff series, and maybe they make a trade and things change at the deadline. But as currently constructed, no, I don't think so. I mean, when I'm sort of ranking teams that I'm the most confident in the East to advance, they'd probably be like sixth or even seventh on that rankings, honestly. It's been a fun story. They've certainly exceeded my expectations, but I definitely agree between the lack of depth, especially at that center rotation, and then the half court offense. I don't think it's enough. Another one from Super Mario Hoops. He wants to know if the Cavs should try and shop Max Strus after the recent injury update where he's not going to be back. It looks like past the deadline or around there. So yeah, what do you guys think about the idea of them sort of traded Max Strus?
I mean, I guess I'm like relatively indifferent. I would say sure. I think that like what he provides is like primarily a shooter and then like kind of like a connective guy isn't something that like feels crucial to them right now, just given like other players they have on their roster, especially with how Jalen Tyson is broken out. I guess it's kind of tough to say like if he's hurt, what exactly they could get back for him. But if it is just some sort of like immediate contributor who's like for sure going to be healthy and maybe just fills something they need a little more, which is probably like a more defensive oriented, bigger guy potentially, then sure. I don't know exactly what his value would look like, but he feels more like less crucial, I guess, to this team right now than maybe he was at like some points last year.
Yeah, I don't, off the top of my head, I don't know how much money he's making. I don't know, like, what the value, like you saying, Finn, would be for him. If there's a trade out there, like, yeah, obviously I wouldn't hold on to Max Strus for any particular reason. But also, I do think that there could be value in, if he is healthy by playoff time, he's still a good player. So I think if the right deal is out there, yeah, you want to do your due diligence and figure out what's around. But I wouldn't like break your neck trying to make sure you get a move for him.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. I mean, especially with the injury, who knows what the value is going to be. He is, I guess, with Jalen Tyson and then even like Sam Merrill, kind of replaceable in some ways, but I don't think the value is going to totally be there. So I wouldn't make it a priority. Honestly, I think they need a bigger trade at this point, with how disappointed they've been. I know they've had a lot of injuries, but at this point, if there was anyone on the team I'd be looking to trade, it would be Jared Allen.
Not
Would you
bad.
run
I don't
Mobley
know.
full time at the center then?
Yeah, I mean, my logic with the Allen trade is they don't play him in clutch time. So for him to be sort of one of your like four highest paid players just doesn't make a lot of sense. And I've personally never loved the idea of like two non-spacing bigs and then two smaller guards. I get that the bigs like cover up for the guards like defensively, but I feel like the Cavs have always kind of been constructed in a flawed way. And with how disappointed they've been, I could kind of see them making a move, and Allen would be the most likely guy of the four.
That's fair. I'll tell you this, I don't know exactly what the package would look like, but if the Celtics somehow landed Jared Allen, if they're looking for centers, you know what? I actually think they could win a championship this year, and I'm being like 80% serious because I think Jared Allen is like so good. And he's not having the best year this year, but just like the overall track record, even since his first All-Star appearance in 2022, that guy is just so good at all like the traditional center stuff. So I think if they're shopping, and especially considering what, is he only making like 20 million a year
He's
still?
around like 2020.
Yeah, like that's somebody that like 27 teams should be calling for, and the ones who don't is like the Wizards, because like what do they really need him for? Like that's a real difference maker.
So Finn, would you rather trade Jared Allen or Darius Garland?
I
I'm
actually
kind of torn on
think
it too. I don't know.
it's really tough. Honestly, like I think maybe Garland. I feel like his value is probably a little higher. And like, I think that, well, it kind of depends on what you would get back for him. But like, if you got Donovan Mitchell kind of running a good amount of point after Garland leaves, I really do like that twin tower duo. And I think that like Jared Allen making 20 million a year versus Garland making whatever he's making, which is it north of 30? I'm really bad at knowing contracts off the
I
top of my
think he's
head.
Garland
around the
is
40 range, yeah.
Yeah, it's like that really makes a difference when you're a contending team with a high payroll trying to like work around the edges. With those small guards, like they're kind of on the downtrend, and maybe the Cavs don't want to get caught in that. I don't know, man. It's kind of tough for me to decide where I think the Cavs should go because like in theory on paper, I still feel like they should be like one of the top 3 teams in the East. They're really not playing like it, but like they still have a good roster, and we just saw it work so well last year. So it's really a tricky situation.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. I don't know. I feel like I would lean a little bit more towards trading Darius Garland, but honestly, yeah, I don't know.
Eamon, thoughts?
But I know he said
Yeah,
he
it's
wanted
Allen.
Jared Allen
Oh
gone,
yeah, that's
so
right,
Yeah.
that's right,
yeah,
that's
that's
right.
that's
Yeah,
why I
yeah,
was
yeah.
asking you.
I can see the vision with trading Garland, though. I do think his value would be higher, and again, having two small guards in the backcourt in a playoff setting is not ideal. I feel like what we've seen so far, just to reiterate it, I guess, is like Garland's little bit more important to this team, so that's why I would try to keep him around. But two more questions here from Instagram before we move ahead to Twitter. My guy Ryan Drune wants to know what NBA and NFL team has the brightest future given current assets. And I will say, like NFL, I feel like it's a lot more cap based than draft picks because we don't see teams trade like six first round picks and just pile up on draft picks and stuff like that. But yeah, what do you guys got here?
Ooh.
I mean, would it be a cop out to still say like OKC? I mean, maybe you could throw the Spurs in there too because obviously they have Wembanyama. They still have their draft capital, a little bit more draft capital from the Hawks as well. I feel like off the top of my head, it's got to be one of those two teams. But NFL wise, honestly, I'm a very casual NFL fan. I'm very excited for the future of Jackson Dart in New York. I don't know if it's the best situation, probably not, but I'm excited for that future for the Giants.
I would I would echo the Spurs, I think, for the NBA. I think as long as you have Wemby and Dylan Harper and these other guys, they really seem set up. I mean, like OKC too. Like you can't really go wrong. But I'll just say the Spurs. NFL, I'm also a pretty casual fan, so I like the Jackson Dart shout out. He's fun. How young are like the Broncos overall? Because obviously this year they were pretty good, and like I know Bo Nix is kind of a younger guy. Yeah, like
Yeah,
are they supposed to be pretty good for a while?
they should be. Their defense a little older, but their offense is like mostly young, I would say. Broncos is a good pick.
What do
Maybe
you
the
think?
Patriots too with Drake May. They look really good.
Yeah, that's yeah.
That's what I was gonna. Unfortunately, yeah. I mean, I'll start with the NFL. Even though I'm from New England, I hate the Patriots, but I think the right answer might be the Patriots because they went 14-3 this year, and Drake May is already one of the best quarterbacks in the league in his second year, and they still have a ton of cap space. So I'd have to say the Patriots there. Unfortunately, did kind of stump me for a second because the NFL is just so different with the draft capital. We don't see these teams piling up the draft capital. It's just like how do we clear space and stuff like that. But yeah, the Pats could maybe land a guy like Max Crosby or Myles Garrett this offseason, which is kind of scary, given how good they were. I still think they're frauds and are going to lose in the playoffs, for all the Pats fans listening. But yeah, um, NBA, yeah, it's going to be either the Spurs or Thunder. I guess I'll throw the Rockets in as that like third team just because they have so many picks still. And even with Durant, they didn't really sell the farm at all. And I mean, Thompson and Şengün are still super young. So there's potential for another move, especially with those picks. But yeah, I mean, those I think are like the top three teams, like Thunder, Spurs, Rockets. Next up, we can move ahead to our last Instagram question. Another NFL one from our guy Bruce Velez. He wants to know who wins this week's games for Wild Card Weekend. Do you guys need a refresher on the Wild Card Weekend schedule?
Just a little
Sure,
bit,
I have
yeah.
them pulled up, but if you want to name them, then we can go like game by game.
Yeah, I mean, first one on Saturday, Rams Panthers. I think this
Rams.
one's yeah.
Rams, yeah, yeah.
This one, I assume you're a Packers fan, Finn. So Packers Bears.
I mean, I gotta ride with the Packers. I think like when we just played them was that like 2 weeks ago now. So much went wrong for the Packers, and the Bears still just like barely beat us. I'll be confident in the hometown squad, but it should be a really fun game. I'm excited to watch that one.
To combat you, I mean, the Bears kind of win like that almost every week, it seems like. Which is some miraculous like end of the game type of situation where they end up clutching up and pulling it out. So because of that, I think the magic will continue, and I'll pick the Bears in that one.
Yeah, I mean, I would have picked the Packers if Parsons was healthy, honestly. Before the Parsons injury, I was like really high on the Packers, but they've just kind of been underwhelming. And Josh Jacobs, I'm a little concerned because he's like on the injury report every week, and it just doesn't look like he's fully healthy. But the Packers were like my preseason like team to represent the NFC. It's just they've had too many injuries, man. So I got to go with the Bears. Jags and Bills is the next one.
Mm.
I'll
I'll,
go
I'll
I'll go
go.
Bills on that one, I think.
Yeah, I'll go Bills too. I know they haven't had the best season, but I still believe in Josh Allen. I think he definitely is talented enough to win the game by themselves. I also had James Cook in fantasy, and he was cooking all year for me. So yeah, we'll ride with that.
Yeah, I trust Josh Allen over Trevor Lawrence, I think, for sure in a playoff game, so.
That's the perfect way to say it. I got to trust Josh Allen for sure. Then we got Niners Eagles.
Ooh, that's gonna be the best game of the week, probably. Niners Eagles is a good one. I don't know. Do you curse on the show?
Yeah, go for
Fuck Philly. We're
it.
gonna go with the Niners.
Heck yeah. I'll take the Eagles, I think, on this one. But yeah, that looks like a good matchup.
I
Also, just
can't. Sorry. The Eagles are like Sixers. I'm fine with whatever. When it comes to football and Philly with the Eagles, like I can't mess with the Eagles, especially since they took Saquon from us. Yeah, cannot.
I mean, your hatred for the Eagles is probably a little more rational than mine. I don't like the Eagles, bro. I don't like the way they play football. I don't like watching them.
The
They've
tush
been
push is
in
corny for sure.
push is so bad. I mean, their offense is just so boring to watch. They run it damn near every play. So as much as I'd like to pick against them, I just kind of can't because the Niners they're a little beat up on defense, and I mean the Eagles are the defending champs for a reason. If they're playing the Rams, for example, I would probably pick the Rams, but in this matchup, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to ride with Philly.
Is George Kittle healthy now?
He is, I believe.
I know he got hurt towards the end of the season. I didn't know if he was back in the playoffs.
Yeah, he returned last week, so he'll be back. That could help the offense a little. Honestly, I'm not as concerned with the offense as the defense because they've just been like super beat up on that end of the field. But yeah,
Yeah.
next game, Chargers Pats. I'll say it quickly. Unfortunately, I gotta go with the Pats.
I'll go
Yes.
with MVP Drake May. How do you feel about that? Who's your MVP this year? Because I see a lot of people really riding for Drake May.
Man, honestly, it's kind of a toss up. Like I don't think if either player gets it, it's undeserved. Ultimately, I do think, say what you will about the schedule, that Drake May did go 14-3, and he does have a worse roster around him than Stafford, so I feel like that sort of has to give him the edge. But like Stafford threw for like 45 touchdowns or something. That's a little crazy. Um, yeah, I think I'd have to go Drake May.
Very fair, yeah. I saw like some like side by side where pretty much the only thing Stafford had May beat in was like touchdowns and maybe like red zone scoring or something, but like he's got like Devontae Adams, like he's in Puka, like he's got these real weapons. Honestly, who are the Patriots' top wide receivers again? It's like I
Stephon
don't even.
Diggs.
Yeah,
Oh
Diggs,
right, yeah, Diggs,
They got
yeah.
Stephon Diggs, and that's about it, I think, right?
Hunter Henry, Kayshon Boutte, like those aren't like great weapons by any
They're
means
not
compared to what
Devontae
Stafford.
Adams.
Yeah, exactly.
Even Stephon Diggs isn't even at that still like, peak of his
Right.
powers. So, yeah.
You got a MVP or Pats Chargers take, Jacob?
I'll go with the Pats still. Even though I do like Justin Herbert, they just, I don't know, I can't put too much trust in the Chargers. They always seem to disappoint a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. MVP, I feel like I would have to go Stafford, and that's only because I didn't watch too many Chargers games, or not Chargers, too many Patriots games this year. And the one game I did watch was versus the Jets, and Drake May got benched by like the halftime because they were up 40, which yeah, I know it shouldn't be against him. It pisses me off that I wasn't able to actually see him play. And yeah, no, I'm gonna go Matt Stafford.
Very valid. I hope Matt Stafford wins it, bro. He's such a legend. Last one, I maybe I'm a little biased, but I think this is kind of an easier one. Texans Steelers.
I'm curious which way
Steelers. I'm gonna
your
go Steelers.
bias leans, but I think I'll go A-Rod and company taking it home.
I'm gonna go with the Texans. I think the Texans win this game by like 40 points, or maybe not 40 because their offense is that good. But I feel like they're gonna destroy the Steelers. Steelers barely got into the playoffs. They're not that good on either side of the ball, and they haven't won a playoff game in like damn near a decade. So I'm just And I also just hate the Steelers because I'm a Ravens fan. But I genuinely think this Texans team is like Super Bowl caliber. So it's more of that than my bias, I hope.
Okay. No, I mean I would trust your take more than mine. I guess I'll just go with one surprise upset pick for
Yo,
the
you gotta
fun of
have
it.
an
But
upset. I
yeah,
respect
yeah.
it.
I'll go Steelers too. I like Aaron Rodgers. I'm not like a crazy fan, but I did have this Madden franchise in like Madden 20, and I took over the Packers, and he was my quarterback for like the next 5 years, and it kind of turned me into a mini A Rod fan from there.
Understandable. I mean, he's an absolute legend. So yeah, definitely respect A-Rod. We can move ahead to our Twitter questions. Both are from our guy Roundball Renaissance. Two kind of like college basketball questions, I guess. He said, since the rules don't matter anymore, who in the NBA do you think would benefit the most from going back to school?
I
Oh,
assume this is a shot at James Najee for going back to Baylor.
I think so.
man, I mean like I
Rob
think
Dillingham. Rob
yeah, that's like the
Dillingham.
first name just 'cause like the way people
Yeah.
talk about him lately. That's what's on top of mind.
That was the first name that came to my head, unfortunately for Rob.
Little guards are just built more for college than NBA, unfortunately. I still believe in Dillingham to some degree, but I'll tell you what, after Jacob, while you glitched out, Eamon updated me that the Bucks waived Mark Sears, unfortunately. So let's get him an extra year of eligibility just to see him play at Bama one more time. He doesn't need it to develop, but just like for the fun of it, man. If he's not gonna crack it in the pros, like let me see him back on the Crimson Tide because that guy is awesome.
Dude, why not? That would be electric. He was awesome in college, and I always like those Alabama teams. They're always a lot of fun to watch. Shit, honestly, dude, Dillingham was my answer. I can't even lie. Like I didn't even think of. I was like, it's gotta be Rob. I think that's just like
Let me try to see
objectively
if I
kind of
can
the right
pick up
answer.
another name off the top of my head so you can
I
have
got
your answer
another one,
back.
Bronny James.
It's not a
That's a
bad
great
one.
one.
He probably should have stayed because, like, he was to some degree a serious prospect. He obviously just came out early because of the LeBron aspect of things, but like, his like, what did he have? Like a heart attack? Like his like cardiac thing threw him off, I think, and he could have used like another year or two realistically, and then maybe like he could have got drafted and like clearly been draftable. That's not even like supposed to be hate to Bronny, but
I'll
Absolutely.
switch my name. I'll pick Tijan Salon, even though he didn't go to college. He was from overseas. I know he's been working out with the G League team a little bit more this year to try to get him some more reps. So I mean, he'll definitely benefit with just having full reins of a college team.
Yeah,
I would
that's a
have
great shout.
that is. I would have agreed with you for sure last year, but like he's had some more impressive moments this year. Like I think he scored like 10 points in one quarter against the Bucks last week. Just like something like that. Like I know he's been having some bigger games. He's still incredibly raw, but he's kind of started to change my mind on him. Maybe like Pacome Dadier should go to college. He's kind of in that
Yeah,
similar realm.
yeah, he's been just not even touching the court. I can't even tell you the last time he checked in. So yeah, might as well get some play somewhere.
100%.
When you said Salon, the other guy that popped into my head was Cody Williams.
Yeah, that's a good
Desperately.
one too. That's a really
Yeah.
good one. Basically, any super raw young player that just hasn't been able to crack it, send him back. Just go back.
Why not? Like you said, the rules don't matter anymore. Second one here from our guy Roundball Renaissance. Who's the worst school in the NCAA that would win the national championship if they had a healthy Jokic on their team?
So I don't know if this is a casual take because I'm not a big college basketball fan, but I feel like he could damn near take a D3 team to win it. I feel like with a healthy Jokic, he would by far be the best player. I mean, he's the best player on the court in NBA games. He would dominate, and he'd be able to elevate his teammates, obviously, as we see him do every night. I feel like I don't know if I'm being too exaggerate with it, but like a D3 team, honestly, yeah.
No, I tend to be on Jacob's side of things generally when it comes to like these discussions where it's like who's the worst NBA player who could take like the 16 seed to the championship. Like whatever version of question you look at, I think people always underestimate just how good the NBA players are. Because think about like how good most of these guys look in college before they even get drafted in the first place. Now, lots of them have played, excuse me, like 5 years in the pro. They're literally like one of the 200 best players in the whole world. They are going to just like be so much better than the competition. So if you got Jokic, shoot. If you want me to pick a college, I'll just say like UW Milwaukee. Just to pick one, that's a D1 school. Just like one of those random ones. But like, yeah, Jokic has taken somebody so far.
Yeah, I'm totally with that, honestly. Especially just like, yeah, he's obviously going to get double teamed every play, but he can just find open shooters. And say what you will about these guys, but they're D1 players, even on the worst college teams in the country, whatever. They're D1 players, they could hit those open shots, especially with his gravity. So, yeah, completely agree. Looking at the Ken Palm rankings right now, Mississippi Valley State is dead last, so I'll go with that. And I'd also shout out my alumni, University of New Hampshire, ranked 336th on Ken Palm. I would love to see
Hey,
Jokic play for UNH. That would be awesome.
go recruit him. DM him on like, well, shoot, he doesn't have socials. Go
Send
to
him an
go
Email his
go
email.
to a
agent.
Nuggets game. Recruit
Go
him.
to Nuggets game. That would be legendary. That would just be cool to see, but yeah, something
Yeah.
we're never gonna see, obviously. But it would be like a cool like thought experiment for sure.
They should maybe they should actually have like preseason scrimmages where colleges can bring back like one or two pro alumni and just have them suit up. I feel like I low-key just accidentally stumbled on like a legit
That
money-making
would be
idea. It would be
crazy.
like entertaining, like people would watch on
Yeah.
TV and they would go to the games, and it would be like good reps for the players too. I feel like get to like play alongside a pro a little bit and against them. That'd be
Just have
really
the whole
fun.
Knicks roster go back to Villanova and just start
My
hooping.
gosh, dude, imagine that might be like almost as much watch as the Super Bowl. I mean, not quite, but people would tune in. That'd be really cool.
I love that idea, honestly. That'd be so cool. Yeah, no, I never thought about that, but that'd be awesome.
I'm like patenting that soon, or I'm gonna like hit up somebody at. I'll have Wisconsin be like the first team to do it. We'll hit up like Johnny Davis since he's just like damn near on his couch right now somewhere.
Chilling.
Like, hey, bro, you want to come play one game?
No, that would be dope. I mean, you got a big D1 school right there, so go for that. Seriously, that is a great idea, genuinely.
Yeah, man.
All right, I think we can wrap it up here unless you guys have any closing thoughts. But before we officially close out the show, I just want to give you guys a chance to plug your work. Tell the listeners where they can find you guys at.
For sure. Right below my name, I don't know if you can see that. Jacoblocks. I'm on that. I'm pretty much all socials. If you don't find me by that, @_ you'll find me. But mainly, I have a YouTube channel here at Jacoblocks. Put out NBA content. If you watched this whole thing and enjoyed it, you definitely would like my channel. So make sure you check that out.
Yeah, you can find me. I got my personal blog, benchroundblog.com. I got my two-way contract database website, twowaytalents.com, that I'm really excited about. And then you can find my Bucks words on brewhoop.com. All of that can be found on my Twitter, which is @Finley Kuehl. So check that out, but also, equally as importantly, check out Jacob and Eamon's other work for sure.
Appreciate you guys
Thank
for
you.
hopping on the show, and yeah, I'll catch you guys later. And yeah, make sure to go check out their work for sure.
Thanks, Eamon.
Catch ya.
Absolutely. All right, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Cassels Cast. Once again, shout out to Finn and Jacob for hopping on the show. It was a ton of fun. And before I head out, I just want to give a quick shout out to Funky Diabetic, an awesome NBA YouTuber who does this series every year, and he's sort of the inspiration behind me doing the Role Player All-Stars on this show. But yeah, without any further ado, peace out.